I'm sure I'm already live. I'm live. Hello. Happy New Year. Oh my gosh. Well, it's New Year's Eve. It is New Year's Eve. This year has been shit and amazing and great. All at the same time. I kind of feel like some people have gone through hell and some people have gone through heaven. I'm kind of somewhere in between. But Jesus, I've definitely woken up, that's for sure. Not woken up from the perspective of woken up to everything that's happening, more woken up to me and my feelings and my trauma and how I feel about myself and blah, 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 all that stuff. Anyway, I'm rambling. So what I wanted to share was I was watching Aubrey Marcus, who is just, I think I've talked about him before. He is such a gift to this world. He just has the biggest, most beautiful open heart. And I feel like he's kind of like my brother from another mother. I don't know. Like he's just a beautiful man. Go and find his channel. Go and watch his channel because this is what he shared. It was amazing. He was talking about how in relationships we go in and we protect ourselves. And not only do we protect ourselves, but I'm trying not to paraphrase, but I cannot exactly remember what he said because my interpretation is probably different to what he actually said, which is why it'd be really great. Go and click on the link. I put it in the comments to watch the interview with him. And my paraphrasing of what he said is when you're in a relationship and you want to protect yourself, instead of being true to yourself, being true to who you are, being true to what you want, being true to how you feel about yourself, instead of putting boundaries on your space. So instead of saying to whoever is outside of you, hey, what you're doing is not okay. I don't like it. I'm not okay with it. Can you please stop? Or, hey, I'm not really enjoying this relationship right now, so I'm going to walk away. Instead of doing that, instead of putting the boundary outside of the world, we put a boundary on the inside and we shut down. And instead of saying, so I'll use an example. My ex-husband, I got married, didn't want to get married. I did not want to get married. I knew at my engagement party, I was sitting on the corner of the couch. Everyone was having an amazing time. They were all dancing. They were all laughing. They were all enjoying themselves so much. And I sat and I looked and I just had this, I don't want to get married. I knew I didn't want to get married. And instead of me setting a boundary and saying, I don't want to get married. I don't want to marry you. I don't even want to have a relationship with you. We were only like 40 days in or 30 days in when we got engaged. It was such a stupid idea. It was a rebound for me. Like I was only 30 odd days. I was only a very short time, maybe 2 months out of a horrendous, emotionally abusive relationship, jumped straight into another relationship and then got engaged. What the fuck? Who does that? Anyway, I did that. And then I stayed married for 5 years. I cannot believe it. But instead of me putting a boundary in place, instead of me saying, no, actually, I don't want this. I didn't put a boundary in place on the outside. I put a boundary on the inside. I shut myself down. I switched myself off and I became just this empty shell who just went about my day, who went there and went here and did this and did that and went to work and moved. And yeah, I didn't experience life in any of my relationships. It wasn't him, it was me. Because in the relationship before him, the abusive one for 5 years, I did not set my boundaries. When this person was yelling at me for the strangest reasons, I never stood up and said, fuck off, stop yelling at me. I stood there and I took it. I went, okay, yep, Yeah, okay, okay. I was like this invisible little doormat. And I think that's something that I've really taken from listening to Aubrey's conversation with this guy, because it's my lack of ability to put boundaries in place with people outside of me that mean that I keep doing things I don't want to do. And I don't want to put those boundaries in place because I'm afraid of them getting angry at me. I'm afraid of them punishing me. I'm afraid of hurting them. I'm afraid of what kind of reaction they might have. I'm afraid of offending them so much that they don't actually want to be my friend anymore. I'm afraid of what they might say about me to somebody else. I'm afraid of how I'm going to feel if they do decide that they don't want a friendship with me anymore, simply because I push back if they say something mean to me, or I push back if they say something that's not nice to me. Somebody the other day, I was talking to her on the phone, and back when all the zoo got fed back in March or whenever it was, my daughter and I got really sick, and she said to me, well, did you go and get tested? And I said, no. Why? She said, you were sick. I said, yeah, so we just self-isolated for a couple of weeks. And she said, oh, you're so selfish. And instead of me really pushing back and going, hang on a minute, no, I'm not. There's nothing wrong with us staying at home and isolating for 4 weeks, knowing that it takes 2 weeks, and now I gave us another 2 weeks. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not selfish. It's not okay for you to say that. What you have just said has hurt me a lot. Instead of me saying that, I kind of skirted around it and said, well, we're not. We stayed at home. We didn't go out. Like, I softened the boundary. I wasn't really direct about how hurt I felt. And instead of me saying, this is how hurt I felt, I shut myself down. I switched myself off. I closed myself. And because I keep closing myself in relationships, they're failing. It's like all over the freaking place, because I am not being honest. I am not being truthful about how I really feel. I'm giving whoever it is I'm talking to at the time the dishonest story to appease them, to appease me. So I don't have to feel any of these uncomfortable feelings that I really don't want to feel. And this goes back to my video maybe 2 days ago about success, where what I really, really, really am coming to understand is the way through this, the way through CPTSD, or the way through trauma, or the way through depression and panic attacks and anxiety, and the way through hell, is brutal honesty. And I don't know if I was really honest with myself today, because I started moving furniture. I didn't want to move furniture, so I did it anyway. I wasn't honest with myself. I ended up hurting myself a little bit when I did it. And I took a step back and I went, oh my God, I wasn't honest. I don't want to do this by myself. I actually don't want to do this by myself. I want to do this with somebody else. And instead of me stopping and taking the time to find someone that can do it with me, because I knew I wanted to do it with someone else, because I knew it was too much for me to do by myself, I went, I'm just going to do it on my own. And then I started, and I ended up creating physical trauma, because I refused to be honest with myself, and I refused to respect my own boundary, and I refused to respect my physical body's ability to, or capability, I should say, to do whatever it was going to do. And because I ignored all of that, and because I wasn't truthful, and because I decided to ignore myself, I ended up hurting myself. And that was, I didn't take it as a lesson because I don't think I really recognized it at the time. I think I'm really recognizing it more in this moment as I'm talking about it, going, yeah, right, now I can see it. Now I can see that I had set a boundary. I ignored my boundary. I went straight past my boundary. I shat on my boundary. And then I ended up hurting myself physically. And then emotionally, because I hurt myself physically, it meant that there were things I could not do with my daughter this afternoon because of the physical pain that I was in, which then caused her emotional trauma, which then caused me emotional trauma. Whereas if I had respected my own limitations, my own boundaries, my own request, if I had respected that, if I had been honest with myself, if I had respected my own boundary, then I could have done what she wanted to do this afternoon. So it's really what I'm really, as this is, I don't know how many days I'm in doing this kind of work. It's only been about 3 weeks where I've really been doing this more honesty work with myself. And in this moment right now, I am work. What I'm really coming to understand that it's the lying that is causing the anxiety. It's the lying that is causing the depression. It's the lying that is causing the heartache. It's the lying that is causing the vertigo and the panic attacks and the lack of good friendships and the lack of good partnerships and any arguments and fights and physical pain. And it's the lying that's causing it all. And it's so easy to lie without even realizing it. Like, so simple to lie to yourself without even realizing it. And even setting a boundary and then not respecting that boundary and just going straight past it, you're kind of lying to yourself. Because on one hand, you don't respect your boundary, but then on another hand, I'm betting and guessing that maybe somewhere along the line you have a mantra that says, I'm in love with myself. No, you're not. I'm not. Because if I was, I would have respected the boundary that my physical body set for me this morning instead of walking straight over it. So this has been a very deep moment of reflection behind why my relationships have been the way they are and how much I struggle being honest with how I feel. And then that honesty is emotionally and sometimes physically causing me trauma. I want to get back to finishing watching this episode because I'm only halfway through it. It has a bazillion gems in it. Please do yourself a favor, go and watch this interview with Aubrey. He is incredible. I have placed it in the link underneath the video, and it is his journey of 5 days in darkness, in pure darkness. He was, I can't remember if it was in Poland. No, in Poland he was with Wim Hof. He was somewhere else, and he was just in a room. That's all they had. And they had face masks. So if you wanted to open the window, but you did not want the light to come in, then you would put your face mask on, open the curtains, open the window so you could feel the fresh air and you could hear the birds. But the whole idea was to be in darkness, so there was no distractions. There was nothing. And you had a toilet in the room and you had a shower in the room, but it was pitch black. So you kind of had to feel your way around trying to find things. And he shared the funniest story where he sat down and went to the toilet and he said, I don't know if I'm clean or not. And he said, I got a couple of choices. I can either keep checking by smelling, I could turn the light on and check, or I can jump into the shower. And he said, I ended up having showers all the time. And it was such a weird thing for him to remember. But I guess it's little things like that that we take for granted, that we don't even realize can be a sensory issue for us, for people. Something as simple as wiping your own bum could be a sensory issue. You could not realize that you pay attention to it until you can't actually do it anymore. You can't see, you can't, there's nothing there. And it's just all these little stories that he shares where he's so honest about what he went through in that room, and the thoughts that he had, and the power of the silence and the power of the darkness. It's, anyway, I'm going to jump off because, yeah, I'm just going to jump off. Otherwise, I can just keep prattling on about nothing for hours. So go and watch that video, please. As soon as you get off this, go and watch that video. It is amazing. And then please share if you've got any insights from it. Jump on, come back to my one. Let me know what you thought of it, and let me know what you figured out from it, because it has, yeah, the videos from Aubrey, I'm watching one every day. They are fundamentally changing my inside, changing my brain on the inside. Go and watch it, because I really feel like there are some fundamental differences, but he has clearly been through a lot of what I've also been through, and what I'm now more trying to understand. So go and watch that video. Have a beautiful night if you are celebrating New Year's Eve. If you're watching this after New Year's Eve, I hope you had a wonderful New Year's Eve. And let's hope that 2021 is a little bit different to 2020. Anyway, have a lovely night. Bye.